Cars Channel News and Review Car.
Driven, BMW 330e, it's the future, but with a catch review. For years, carmakers have seemed to be stuck in the same cycle of producing slightly better iterations of cars that came before. Lighter, bigger, faster and more efficient, but the recipe stays the same. An internal combustion engine burns fuel to propel a crankshaft, spinning a transmission that sends power to the road. Niche hybrids aside, the car as a piece of technology has stayed stagnant for over a century. We've long looked at electric vehicles as the true car of the future, one that you plug into your home just like a smartphone and produces zero emissions. Just like your smartphone, however, an EV's battery life is unpredictable, and when you do deplete it, it takes ages to charge it back up again. Fine if you're just browsing Facebook, not so fine if you're on your way to Penang and the low battery warning just came on. Malaysians have been able to buy the F30 BMW 330i Performance since late August, just 5 months after it was unveiled to the world, making it a surprisingly short lead time. What's more, like other plug-in hybrids, and the new Hyundai Ioniq hybrid, sold in Malaysia, the car is locally assembled, CKD, to take advantage of the aforementioned incentives. As such, it comes into the market priced at just Rm248,800 on the road without insurance, slotting in just above the less powerful, less well-equipped 320i Sport. This puts it pretty much smack in the middle of the local 3 Series range in terms of price, although with the recent discontinuation of the Rm297,800 330i Sport, it now sits at the top of that range. Attractive full LED head and tail lights are standard across the range, but the 18-inch style 658 V-spoke alloy wheels mark the 330e out as the top spec model. What it doesn't get is the i-Performance styling package that adds blue highlights to the grille and wheel badges. For the more conservative Malaysian market, that's probably a good thing. Also missing is the BMW I front fender badging found on other markets, although the e-drive badges on the C-pillars remain. The charging port is on the left front fender. Inside, it's standard F33 series fare, with a no-frills, driver-oriented design that hides some questionable materials and trim choices, especially compared to the outstanding interiors of the C-Class and the recently launched Audi A4. Still, it feels fairly well built for the most part, and has a clarity and simple logic to its switchgear layout and instrumentation that the others still have yet to master. As befits a range-topping model, the 330e comes with such niceties as comfort access keyless entry, complete with hands-free boot lid opening, the full BMW professional navigation system with an 8.8-inch widescreen display and handwriting recognition and a color head-up display. There's also a sunroof and an electric rear windscreen blind, both of which are new to the local 3 Series range, and the reverse camera is finally standard and factory-fitted, instead of being a dealer-fitted option. However, the C350e goes one better with items like a 13-speaker Burmester surround sound system, triple-zone climate control and air suspension, along with autonomous emergency braking. Connectivity features include the connected drive services and apps, including the Cool Concierge service that will leave and send directions directly to the navigation system. Sandwiched between it and the 8-speed ZF automatic transmission is an 87 horsepower/250 Nm electric motor, boosting total system output to 252 horsepower and 420 Nm. A 5.7 kWh lithium-ion battery juices the motor. With all systems go, the 330e sprints from 0 to 100 km per hour in 6.1 seconds, half a second slower than the 330i. The top speed is also a slightly more modest 225 km per hour rather than the 330i's electronically limited 250 km per hour. At the other end of the spectrum, The 330e is capable of achieving a claimed combined fuel consumption figure of just 2.1 liters per 100 kilometers, produces carbon dioxide emissions of just 49 grams per kilometer, and has an all-electric range of 35 kilometers, with a maximum speed of 120 kilometers per hour in this mode. 6. The car starts up in auto e-drive and in comfort mode, and it's in this setup that the 330e feels the most futuristic, leaning heavily on the electric motor in most situations. Even under moderate acceleration, the car will go all the way up to 80 km per hour on electric power alone, above which the petrol engine, being more efficient at these speeds, takes over propulsion duties. It takes a determined stab on the throttle to force the four-pot into play, but it's not the cleanest of transitions. Although the engine spins into life smoothly and instantly, the extra power doesn't actually kick in until 1 or 2 seconds later, signaled by a sudden shove in the back as the 330e develops a second wind. 7. Of course, no one will be able to match the claimed NEDC electric range of 35 kilometers. Even the trip computer shows around 32 kilometers when fully charged, and that itself is optimistic. Take that into consideration, however, and what's left is still a pretty decent all-electric range. For example, en route to returning the car to BMW Malaysia's headquarters in Cyberjaya, I managed around 25 kilometers, which was just about enough to take me to the nearby Chargev point at the Malaysia Automotive Institute, MAI, all the way from my house in Bukit Jalil, on electric power alone. This, all the while driving at a pace that admittedly veered on the side of cautious, but never unrealistic or unsafe. 8. Of course, with little noise coming from under the bonnet, the lack of refinement that is apparent on every F33 series is made even more stark here. Even at moderate highway speeds there's more than a rustle of wind noise, but all that gets drowned out by the sheer amount of tire noise. It's so loud, in fact, that it's borderline uncomfortable even at a cruise, and is simply unforgivable for a premium car. But there's just something about the way every F30 drives that feels just right. The light steering, being electrically assisted, provides little in the way of feel and has a slightly lazy response on center, but flick the thick wheel more than a few millimeters and the car swings around faithfully, pivoting tightly around an invisible axis like the outer arm of a compass. 9. Grip levels are high, to the extent that in the dry it's nigh on impossible to unstick it. Provoke it with enough intent and effort and the rear will step out, but the 330e doesn't feel anywhere near as willing to slide around as the 330i, likely due to the extra weight it is carrying. It's much happier when you drive it cleanly and with a more judicious use of throttle. It isn't infallible, however. In wet conditions it can be tricky to put the power down mid-corner, the stability control light blinking furiously if you so much as breathe on the right pedal. 10. Also reliant on usage is the total range. BMW quotes a figure of 595 kilometers with both the petrol engine and the electric motor at play, but typical everyday driving would see the car return closer to 400 kilometers, a result of the tiny fuel tank. Do bear in mind, however, that because the 330 is so reliant on the electric motor, charging it regularly could greatly extend the mileage. So, to the original question, is the new BMW 330e really the right car for you? That really depends on several variables, perhaps more than the average buyer is willing to put up. While the car makes you make arguably the least compromise amongst the eco-friendly vehicles out there, it's by no means hassle-free.